That's operations.
We're building new dorms at the very.
We're not allowed to announce that, but the province has.
Two buildings.
Sure, I have your trip up there.
DHH.
Recording in progress.
That's surprising.
All right, staff, you can turn off your. We're going to start the meeting.
Less than 60 seconds.
I will turn off my camera as well. Here we're. We could start missing one director.
Dr. Autho.
Thank you.
Here we are. It is now 2:30, and I'm going to call the Special Regional Hospital Board meeting to order. So the first item of business is called order, which I just did. The second item of business is approval of the agenda. Now, before we have a motion, all right, my computer just told me we have a meeting. Before we get started, I would like to propose a couple of changes to our meeting agenda. One is chair's report, which is item 8, to be moved before correspondence and thus in front of business arising from correspondence. And item 5.1, there has been some question as to whether or not it should be on the agenda by some directors. So before we have a motion to approve the agenda, I was going to invite the CAO to explain this item.
Thank you, Chair. I put this on the agenda for, in my mind, to procedurally correct things. The Regional Hospital Board acts under authority of its own legislation. The QRD acts under legislation of its own, which is the LGA. The procedure bylaw is basically owned by the QRD, not the QRHD. Any amendments, appeals, repeals, etc., to that and advertising has to be done by the QRD. In my mind, to get it to the right order of business, it should be being functioned and actioned by the QRD and QRD staff. The Regional Hospital Board is you folks, and there's the new added legislation and any First Nations that are that become treaty. But when you go into the contents of a meeting of a Regional Hospital District Board, they go through all of the sections that apply from the LGA, except for section 225, which is the procedure bylaw. And because we're dealing with the procedure bylaw, I thought it would be better that it be on the QRD side of the equation rather than the QRHD side of the equation. So that was my logic for putting it on here. Basically just advancing it over to the QRD side of the equation to be dealt with by the QRD board, who by the laws of the LGA have all of the final say and approval of things QRD related. You guys can roll it over and go with the recommendation, or you can remove it from the agenda and staff will attempt to do their best with it as is. It's up to you.
Okay. Thank you, CAO. So my understanding is if we do include 5.1 on the agenda, then we will essentially be reconsidering an item that was passed and adopted back in April. However, the motion was to request a staff report for, the board procedure bylaw at the Regional Hospital District. Whatever decision the hospital district makes in relation to the board procedure bylaw, it would ultimately be a recommendation to the Cathet Regional District, which is a separate entity. So my mind is, I think the motion is fine the way it is and that we can have that staff report. However, if there are individuals that think that we should just get this over to the Cathet Regional Hospital District, then we can include this item under 5.1 of the agenda. Please, Director Doe.
When you're finished.
Oh, I just did.
So, I think that we could well dispense with item 5,000. And I think the regional hospital district are the people that should determine what their procedures would like their procedure to be. And by that, I mean all of the directors of the regional hospital district. If we forward this simply without the staff report, without any direction from the regional hospital district, we are leaving out a significant member of the board. We're leaving out the representation for the people of the Willamette. And I don't think that's appropriate. I think it's a great idea for the board in its entirety, all the members, to talk about how we would like the procedure bylaw to function for the board. And then I recognize that at the end of that, we would have to submit that request to the regional district board. But I don't think it's a positive thing to do to eliminate one of the members of the regional hospital district board from the discussion. So I would just as soon remove 5.1. We've already got a motion that the board directed staff to review the board procedure bylaw and bring back a report with proposed changes to the regional hospital district board. I think we should just go with that.
And Director Elliott.
I concur with Director Dowd and yourself. I think we need a staff report. I think the regional hospital board needs to forward something to the regional district in the way of a recommendation for the procedure bylaw, and we don't have the report, so we can't do anything without that. And I don't think we should forward it without a specific recommendation. So I think we need to proceed with the motion that's currently on the table, been approved by our board, and get a report back so that we can make recommendations to the regional district based on the report.
Okay. Well, what I'm hearing around the table is that we should then remove item 5.1 from the agenda and in its place put the chair's report. Do I have a mover for that motion for the agenda? Director Paul, seconded by Director Lennox. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? None, that is carried. Adoption of the minutes of May the 22nd. Do I have a mover, or are there any errors and omissions that jump out at anyone? Seeing none, do I have a mover? Director Lennox, Director Brander. All in favor? Seeing any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Okay, on to the chair's report. Now, let me bring this item up. Okay, so this is my first chair's report. On June the 6th, I attended the Vancouver Coastal Health Local Government Liaison Group. It was open to all local government elected officials, and there were some individuals around the table that were also there. It was a roundtable hosted by Dr. Penny Balaam, the chair of VCH's board of directors. We heard about healthcare concerns and priorities in the community, and we focused on opportunities, challenges, and solutions. I spoke to challenges related to referrals between health ministries, i.e., people being sent to Vancouver instead of Vancouver Island if there was an easier way for them to get the care they need. I also, in that time, after that meeting, had some discussions with our Lower Coast elected officials related to the Memorandum of Understanding. The current status on this item, VCH is still working on an updated Memorandum of Understanding, as has been requested by the chairs of the hospital district previously, and that is Cathet Regional Hospital District, Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District, and Sea to Sky. Mutual objectives had not yet been set out by the three regional hospital districts to cover what this Memorandum of Understanding will contain. What I have heard is that VCH's more pressing response to our board's concern about funding requests, capital, and staffing is intended to be achieved through the proposed working groups that has been coming before our table in April and May, and I will touch on that momentarily. It also appears that the Sea to Sky and Sunshine Coast have both established these working groups, and we are just a little late to the table, but we're getting there. I unfortunately have not had a chance to speak with the chair of the Sea to Sky Regional Hospital District. Their chair and vice chair recently swapped positions this year. So I look forward to having a good discussion with their chair, Jenna Stoner. Now, on August the 1st, I attended a meeting with VCH as part of our board resolution to appear as a delegation. It was attended by Director McCormick and Michelle Jones on behalf of staff. The items to report back from this meeting, just also clarification, memorandum of understanding is still intact. It hasn't expired. Item number 2, nothing in our proposed terms of reference immediately jumped out as disagreeable to the parties at VCH. So they will have a look at it over and bring it over to their people, and then they will get back to us as to whether or not they can, give the approval. I've requested that they get back to us in time for our September Regional Hospital District meeting, and we tentatively scheduled another meeting for October, hopefully after we have adopted the terms of reference from both sides. Now, this is the interesting part, is what is the purpose of this working group? The objectives of this working group were laid out. Main one for this board, earlier engagement related to potential cost share requests. The intent is to have fewer surprises for both our board and our finance department. One of the challenges as to why we end up having these cost share requests at such a late date is that Vancouver Coastal Health Management staff have to go through their processes. And of course, they can't have us announcing what is potentially going to be funded before they've gotten approval through their various departments, ministries, and conduits. Also, the working group will be a conduit for the Regional Hospital District Board to bring forward issues and concerns related to VCH's supports and the delivery of their services. It was also clarified the positions of staffs in operation and the politicians, doing our political job. We're not going to interfere with how they do operations and, so on and so forth. The main thing is that the VCH staff are going to help inform us, and we can then, do our best when it comes to advocacy, but that is something that was just clarified for that, separation of roles, that we're not going to be getting in there and, telling them, oh, this person needs to work there. That's not what we do. And now also the very interesting news that I think everyone in the community can be a little excited about, campus health vision and master plan. Sea to Sky is in the middle of doing a campus health vision and master plan, which is where they take a look at the hospital facilities and the grounds surrounding it. And they take a look at what is the 15 to 20 year plan for how we're going to use those facilities. And Sea to Sky is right in the middle of it. And Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District is just starting there. So it involves elected officials, public engagement, lots of feedback. It's a big thing. And obviously we are next in line. So the question that we all want to ask ourselves is, what do we want our campus to function, and the layout and the look of it, and how it will meet the needs of our community in 2035, 2040. Sounds a long way away, but it's really only 10 to 15 years. So that is the main items to report from my chair's report, and I will send a copy of it to our corporate officer so that she doesn't have to type everything out. And with that, that is the end of my chair's report. So is there any questions?
Yeah, just a quick question. Thanks for your report. On the campus health vision and master plan, you said it's like a long-term 15, 20 year. Are they in the engagement phase right now? Is that like, what phase are they in, or have they issued the plan?
For us, we're
at the start.
Best way to put it is, Sea to Sky is running the race. The trigger has just been pulled on the starting pistol for Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District, and I guess for us, they're loading the starting pistol.
Thanks, that's very helpful.
We're on deck.
So
no, it's good. That's what I meant.
It's a good question. It hasn't officially started yet, but we are next on the list. So start getting some ideas, and of course, the process hasn't officially started yet. That is something that was brought to our attention, so something to keep them up. Rick Elliott.
So Sea Sky's on second or third base, and Sunshine Coast is up to bat, and we're on deck.
That is correct. Yeah, I like that.
You're welcome.
Our fans are still out there.
Recognizing Director McCormick.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And it was most interesting to go to that meeting with you, and Vancouver Coastal Health, authorities. There's a couple things that I guess worry me a little bit about this whole thing. One is that there's nothing in the terms of reference about deliverables. Like, yes, there's a lot about what it is that we're going to talk about, but then what? There's kind of no expectation for the working group set out in the terms of reference. And I don't know, I think maybe there should be. I also am concerned a little bit about the 4-member thing, whereas, you know, ours are 3 politicians and 1 staff, and they're all staff, and they don't have politicians. But I'm curious to see what the terms of reference are in either Sea to Sky or whatever the other one was, because I'd like to see how they compare. In other words, are we doing things exactly the way they're doing it? And are there any deliverables set out in any of the other terms of reference? So Sunshine Coast or Sea to Sky. So that's, I guess, do you have any idea of the answers to those things? Or I guess those are just kind of things that are on my mind, starting to stumble down this road with you.
No, that's a very good question. My understanding from talking with the VCH staff was that our original terms of reference before we had the alterations was nearly identical to what Sea to Sky and Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District had. And so it seems like we, in our new terms of reference, are actually getting a little bit more than what the other regional hospital districts have in their terms of reference. And I share some of the similar concerns, you know, around commitments to, you know, one of the things that pops into my mind is if we fund a facility and VCH isn't able to, you know, provide the staffing for it, it makes me concerned about, you know, why are we funding this? Because we hear from other communities as they get staff shortages that, you know, they close their emergency room. And I would, if I was a representative for that community, I'd say, well, then why are we funding this facility if you can't keep it open? But I think that is something that we will start crossing as we start getting down the road. And I do agree that I would like to see some commitments from Vancouver Coastal Health to ensure that, you know, the staffing level is up to snuff, so that these facilities are being used to what, you know, the intention of what we're funding is for. But to answer your question, our terms of reference are a little bit apparently better than the other 2 regional hospital districts. So we'll see where it goes. Any other questions? Oh, seeing none, I guess we'll move on to item number 6, correspondence.
7.1.
Oh, so yeah, correspondence. Is there anything about the correspondence? Otherwise, we'll move on to item 7.1, business arising from correspondence.
I'll move the recommendation.
I was going to ask our corporate officer. I sent a bit of different wording for this meeting or this proposed meeting for Vancouver Coastal Health and ministry staff. And I'll just let the corporate officer get it up on the screen. There we go. So give you a moment to take a gander. And then before we jump to a motion, if there's any questions, we'll go around the table. Anyway, if everyone's had a chance to read, I'll Director Elliott.
I'll make the motion on the screen.
Okay. No one has any questions, and I recognize Director Elliott is making the motion. Is there a seconder? Seconder, Director McCormick. Okay, open for discussion. Director McCormick, would you like to speak? Oh, you're muted.
Hi, thank you. Okay, so I guess I don't know. Are we asking for a commitment for more response from bank? What are we actually asking for? We're saying these are the issues. We want clarity. is there anything else that we actually want that I'm not reading in here?
Oh, I'll clarify. The motion before us is that the board directs staff to set up a meeting with the health authorities
Yeah,
of British Columbia during the UBCM convention. And this is just the wording of some of the topics that we can be discussing. And if there's anything else,
well,
then please put it before the assembly, or I think we can even include it before we get to the meeting. Okay, go ahead, Director McCormick.
we passed a motion a while ago about mental health, staffing or support or funding for or resources for. And I'm just wondering if that should be included in this list. Or if that would be covered under vulnerable. But we did pass a special motion that I recall about asking for support for mental health issues. So I'm just wondering if that should specifically be mentioned.
I'm going to actually ask our CAO, because at the very bottom it says all of the health-related letters of advocacy that the QRD and QRHD has recently sent out. Would those motions also be covered by this motion for discussion?
Through the chair, I'm asking for a little clarity myself. So what was up on the screen?
This.
On my screen.
No. How can we get it up on the screen again, please?
Yeah. I could read out the motion of that.
Can I ask that it be emailed around or something so I can at least read it?
Certainly. Can the corporate officer, or would you like me to read it?
There it is.
There it is.
Okay, now I see what it
Yeah,
is.
at the very bottom, all of the health-related letters of advocacy that the QRD
Sorry.
and QRHD has recently sent out.
Yes, through the chair, I would say that would answer Dr. McCormick's concerns.
So this motion would then cover all of the resolutions that have been adopted by the regional district and regional hospital district. Does that answer the question, Director McCormick? Oh, you're muted. Getting the speakers list going.
Okay, sorry, can you hear me? I just think that mental health should be specifically mentioned rather than just including it as one of the other things. Because I think it is an issue of great significance in our region, and we've singled out that issue previously. So I would just like to see it mentioned on the list.
Okay, Director Elliott.
Well, I'll second the amendment to add mental health in the QRD advocacy area. And then
I like that.
if I
Okay,
may.
so now we have a motion to add mental health to the bottom of the list, and it has been seconded. And I'll just wait for the corporate officer to make sure all the ducks are in a row.
Give me a second.
And then I just had a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So is it the
Director Elliott seconded, and that is if Director McCormick is making that motion. Yeah, I'm seeing nods. Okay, it was seconded by Director Elliott.
Sorry, that the motion be amended to add mental health related concerns?
I do believe that was the intent of the motion.
Yes.
Mental health concerns. So.
And then I had a
speaking to the
question.
amendment. Go ahead.
This could be for the amendment too. The question is when we go to meetings with staff, do we have sort of a briefing package that gives us sort of the list of the letters that would have been covered by that to go with, or do we have to individually research all of the stuff that would go with that? Like, will we have a briefing package for each meeting?
I'm going to turn to our CIO. Can we have a briefing package when we go to this meeting?
Is that part of our?
Typically, we do give you a briefing
Okay,
package.
thank you. I would just check.
That's good clarification. Okay, Director Doe, speaking to the amendment.
I like the amendment just fine. I think it's a good addition to the rest of the package, which I think is fine. I think it's hugely ambitious for a meeting with staff. You know, I want to remind everybody that we have probably 15 minutes. And there's a lot of issues on that.
Yes, I do concur. For those watching at home, these meetings are commonly referred to as speed dating for elected officials, because it's just how quickly you go. Any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Back to the main motion. Is there any other further discussion on the main motion? Director Fall.
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, just to follow up a bit on what Director Doak just said, I think we'll need to be really focused when we meet. We'll find out how long we have. I think I don't know if it's 15 minutes, 20 or half an hour, but when we do, and I like the idea of separating it into the on-campus versus off-campus, the non-RHD land issues, helipads and the, small community health centers and things like that. So I think, but we'll want to, maybe ahead of time have our heads wrapped around of about, if we have 15 minutes, is it 5 and 10, or is it, how do we divide it up so we can not go down or, go off base and say, we talked about one item and we missed 8.
Oh, that's very good. And I hope that when we get our package, that we can kind of settle down on those numbers and figure out, okay, we'll spend 7 minutes or 5 minutes. And then that way, when we go in there, we can be clear, concise with what our ask is and move forward. I do believe Director Brander had his hand up first.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I was just looking at the motion in the original agenda, and I was curious if the final item, the staffing issues and bed dedication at the Catholic General Hospital, is that included in this new motion, or has that been overlooked?
I do believe it's under the on-campus regional hospital district lands, staffing commitments to ensure service delivery for funded assets at local facilities. And with that
bed dedication is not included.
Okay. Would you like to put forward an amendment, or we can just add that later on?
Well, I think I would like to have everything that is included in the original package in the motion that was in front of us. So, yeah, I guess I would propose an amendment.
Well, how about right after staffing commitments, we insert the word "and bed dedication." Then it would cover.
However we get it in there.
Okay, that's we got a mover from Director Brander. We have a seconder, Director Lennox. To include "and bed dedication." Right after.
Got it.
Yeah, got it. Awesome. Okay, any discussion, Director Doak?
Say one thing and one probably irrelevant. First thing I'm going to say is that this is an awful lot of stuff to get across in one 15-minute meeting. And it has taken us probably more time to talk about what we're going to think we should talk about than we're going to have talking about it. So I think we should have a prepared script everybody agrees to before we enter the room. Have people able to read it and present it without getting sidetracked, because it would be easy to go to the second item and spend the entire 15 minutes talking about the second item and miss the rest. If we have a prepared statement and a package of information that we can hand out, and we don't have to read the entire package to everybody, we can try to get to the important point. I think that's important. And the other one is, I would really like it if not just the regional hospital district, but the board and the planning committee and everybody else had a process where if we're putting up motions that aren't in a package, that we all be able to see the motion, so we don't have to try to memorize it from a short clip on the screen and then debate it. I'd really like to be able to see the motion while we're debating.
Okay. Can we get it up on the screen, or?
And I know that's a problem for people who are viewing remotely, because when we do that, they end up not being able to see the other members of the board on their screens, because the motion takes up all of the space, and the people in the boardroom end up being a small square over in the corner.
That is very true. So on to the the proposed amendment, which is to insert bed dedication. Okay, is there any other question or anyone wishing to speak on bed dedication? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Okay, we are back to the main motion.
I'd just like to add to the other directors' very valid points about being succinct, but also kind of coming at it with the approach of any possible solutions or, wins that levels of government, including the BC level of government, can take away working with communities. Because some of these things, if you think it out, even in a bullet point in a very short statement, can be seen to be, again, proactively working towards a solution. And I think ministers and staff are willing to engage on that. That's it. Thanks.
Very good. And that is my thoughts as well, is that when we go to have these meetings, we want to make sure that we're focused on solutions and offering ideas, and not just, complaining about the lack of services, which is something that's happening all across the province. I do believe, was it Director Elliott next? Oh, no, sorry, Director McCormick.
Yeah, thanks. I have a comment, but I'd also like to see the amended motion. Is there a way of putting it up on the screen and still having the group there?
No.
Or at least could we see the amended motion?
Yes, I'm sending the amended motion in the chat, and I will share it again. It's quite large, so it becomes quite small to read, but
Right.
you'll see it in the chat.
Okay, well, just one thought about the presentation. I agree with having a predetermined, quick notes presentation with more details that we can give in the way of a handout. But in a news story, you write your most important, important item in the lead in the first sentence. So really at the beginning, I believe it should be our ask, what we want to come out of this meeting or what we hope would come out of the meeting. So, but yeah, thank you. I'm just looking at the motion now.
And please leave it up so that the directors can have a chance to take a look. It's very fundamentally similar to what's in the package. It's just, rewritten for clarity and also to make sure it takes on a more positive tone, because this is a request to meet with the province, and it is at their discretion to say, yes, they will meet with us, or no, they have other things they would rather do. But in essence, it's trying to capture the same objectives. And when we do get our package, we can then sit down and kind of prioritize which one do we want to have first, second, third kind of thing. And then we'll be off to our speed dating if the motion passes. So, Director McCormick,
Thank you. Yep. One final item about the mental health. It says mental health issues, but really I believe what we had asked for was adequate resources or additional resources. So rather than using a vague word issues, I would say, resources appropriate, appropriate resources or whatever the right wording is. But I think that would be more meaningful than just issues.
Okay, does that need to be a friendly amendment or an official?
Everybody agree to appropriate mental
resources.
Mental health resources.
For mental health.
Chair, I would suggest asking if all members agree.
Yeah, if all members agree, then let's say thumbs up around the table. Okay, I don't see anyone disagreeing, so that is now changed. Thank you for that, Director McCormick.
That's on
Yeah.
There, perfect. Okay, is there any other discussion on this topic? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Well, we made it through that. Okay, on to the consent agenda.
There is none.
There is none. Resolutions removed from consent agenda. There is none. Resolutions, bylaws, reports, new business. We are on to question period. Any questions from members of the public?
Hello, Chair Galinsky from the Peak here. During the chair's report, you were making mention, I believe, during your meeting with Dr. Ballum about patient destinations and heading to the Lower Mainland versus the island. Could you further elaborate on that?
Certainly, though I won't take up too much time. A number of patients in our region, they do get referred over to the island, but it's only for some services. And then, it's kind of like they'll go up to here and then they got to get referred down to Vancouver. And, I've heard from individuals where that can be a challenge where, they have better accommodation maybe on the island. And, each person's needs are a little different. I spoke to Penny about this, and, there's no firm commitment of, okay, they're gonna get on it right away. But it's something that they're definitely going to look into, because the idea is how do we make sure that the patient's needs are being met for what works for them? because getting 2 ferries down to Vancouver can be very challenging. And, you know, you got Nanaimo, you got Campbell River, we've got, you know, Courtney Comox over there. And if they can provide the same service with, you know, take the 1 ferry and that works better for the patient, then I think that should be something that is increasingly available to the doctor so that they can refer their patients to whatever works best for the patient. That was essentially what I spoke to Penny about, and she is going to look into it. But of course, no hard and firm commitments, because as we all know, government moves slowly.
I thank you for the response, Chair. I've heard from patients who have been told on Vancouver Island that Vancouver Island Health Association is going to no longer be accepting patients from the Cathet region. And so there was some concern there. I'm working through Island Health to try and verify that. But anyway, I appreciate you advising me that Dr. Ballum is looking into the situation. Thank you for the response.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm not surprised to hear you're hearing a similar story. And I also pointed out to Dr. Ballum that our regional hospital district actually used to be part of Vancouver Island Health Authority. And then we moved over to Vancouver Coastal Health. So we're kind of this, you know, half and half. And at the end of the day, we want to just make sure that we're doing what's right for the patients in the community.
Thank you, Chair. That was my question.
Okay, any other questions from members of the public? Seeing none, moving to in-camera session. Director Lennox.
I move that the board move in camera, that the meeting be closed to the public on the grounds that the subject matter to be considered relates to matters covered by the community charter under section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements. If the board considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the regional district. K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a regional district service that are at their preliminary stage and that in the view of the board could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the regional district if they were held in public. And the consideration of whether a board meeting should be closed under provision of this subsection or subsection 2, and 2B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence related to negotiations between the regional district and the provincial government or federal government or both, or between a provincial government or the federal government or both, and a third party.
We have a seconder, Director Elliott. Any discussion on that item? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? None, that is carried. We are now moving in camera. Thank you, members of the public, for attending.
Well, we kept saying regional distribution.
Yeah, it's sometimes when we read out the closed session, because they read out the municipality.
Mark, it is Penny
meeting, right?
Yeah. We'll just need about 5 minutes to start that.
You can just start with a motion to turn back the clock.
The province won't even give it a daylight savings time.
George, I'm getting back in the tender and going back up into the Ragged Islands as soon as we're done, so let's move this along. I haven't seen it. It's literally gonna be back up my boat tonight.
Didn't even pull up the anchor, eh?
No.
Okay, thank you. Chair, we're back in open session.
Okay, order everyone. Okay, we are back in open session and we have nothing to rise and report, and the regional hospital district, that regional hospital district is now adjourned. Thank you very much for attending.
I'm surprised that you got here and didn't